What's going on, ambitious vet? Thanks for diving right back inside the trenches with us this week as we seek to provide you the golden grenades you need, or may just not know you need, but once you hear them, you're just like, holy shit, like, I need to hear this. We all have those. We're here to seek to provide you the golden grenades you need to break through new levels of satisfaction, if I can talk, fulfillment, and success in your life post-military. And in today's show, Ambitious Vet, you're going to learn what happens when we remove politics from situations and how healing farms that are bridging civilians and veterans together in a thriving micro community that are cultivating emotional, physical, and spiritual health. That and much more. Stay tuned.
Al Ain is one of the cities and Abu Dhabi is the other. We had within the higher ed institutions that I was at, the higher colleges of technology, 55 different nationalities from all over the world that were working at the university. So this would, places that we tend to think that, you know, we have a problem with, or people that we have a problem with, which is the biggest mistake right there, is to say people. We have problems with governments, and so I would have faculty from Pakistan and from India.
Today's show is going to be brought to you by Rollers. Ambitious Vet, are you looking for a last-minute holiday gift, depending on when you are listening to this, that keeps the good times rolling? Well, look no further than Rollers. It's a veteran-owned, fun, new outdoor yard game that combines elements of other traditional games like bocce ball, bowling, and horseshoes. It's a snap to set up, easy to learn and play, but not to win. It's a game of skill with an element of chance. Cool thing is, it's invented by a good friend and Minnesota native, Matt Butler. Interesting second thing is the concept was first visualized on downtime between deployments overseas in Iraq and Afghanistan supporting combat operations. Matt didn't look back from there, trying it out in a lot of Midwestern good old barbecues home on leave, to where now he's sold well over 60,000 plus units of this game and is in multiple retail chains across the United States. Well, Ambitious Vet, check out your potential next Rollers game to bring your family joy this spring and summer by checking out rollers.com. And if you want free shipping, go ahead and enter discount code AVNetwork or give them your email address. Either or will get you free shipping on that first Rollers game. And I promise you, you won't be disappointed.
It's time to get into the trenches, dig into your purpose, and fire up your life's fulfillment. The Ambitious Vet Podcast starts now.
What's going on, Ambitious Vet? We are right back inside the trenches this week with Alan Yeck. He's a United States Marine, Special Intelligence Communications veteran, and Executive Director of Veterans Healing Farm, which are providing education to provide innovative farming techniques and foster a thriving micro community of veterans and civilians who build deep friendships and cultivate emotional, physical, and spiritual health. Alan has also invested over 20 plus years of higher education experience and has lived all over the world. Ambitious Vet, I am excited to introduce today's guest. Alan, are you there?
Chris, thank you very much for having me today.
Yeah, it's an absolute honor. When I was doing some pre-work on this conversation, Alan, I was just like, wow, he spent, what was it, over 10 years in the Middle East?
11 years in the Middle East in three countries total.
Wow, that's crazy. That is crazy. So, safe to say, Ambitious Vet, Alan has a lot of perspective. Good and bad, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, for what it's worth,
Yeah.
My 2 cents.
Yeah. So, Alan, again, thanks for joining the show. I mean, you bring a lot of perspective, a lot of different just education perspectives also to the topic we're going to be diving in today, which who knows, it may be multiple. But I'd love to just kind of give you a chance, kind of fill the background of that introduction, kind of fill more of your background, getting out of the United States Marine Corps as an enlisted guy as well, and what those initial aspirations were and what kind of led you up to where you are today.
Okay. When I got out of the Corps, I really didn't have any aspirations because I was, 22. And as most 22-year-olds, I mean, I think there's a small percentage that always have it together and always had, and they're skyrocketing and will continue to do it. But I was just, I was out of the Corps and I needed a job. And I've got to say that probably in a 2-year period, if I were to say I had 18, 20 jobs, it would probably be in that area.
Yeah.
Because I was taking jobs. And I was coming out of the Corps as a corporal, and I was a assistant platoon commander. So had for where we were at 20 Marines under me, and now I remember I got a job at a factory one day, and my job was to stretch a piece of plastic to another guy across from me. He would take it, and then I'd hit this pedal. And a dashboard would come up, and the plastic would coat it. I lasted. By the second day at lunch, I quit. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't, and that's not a knock on, because there's the people that can do it. It's just coming out of the military, coming out of the service, and what we know is the training we get. No 18-year-old is getting that training or that responsibility, and so. Most 22-year-olds would be fine with that, or 23-year-olds would be fine with that. But there was that restlessness in me trying to find an equivalent responsibility, ownership, something that I could be proud of.
Yeah.
Well, as this process was going on, I applied for the State Department and the CIA, and both applications came in. The State Department was 3, and this is. I'm going back to where I had to handwrite on these applications.
Yeah.
State Department was 3 copies. The CIA was 5 copies. So
holy cow.
I said, well, I'm not going to fill out 5 copies. So I did 3 copies, and lo and behold, they called, and then based upon what I did in the Marine Corps, I was now an information management officer for the Department of State Diplomatic Corps.
Nice.
So my first assignment was in Africa. And during that time, from the time I got out to my first assignment, was the Marine barracks bombing in Beirut in 1983. And that just hit me because I was out at the time. And I woke up Sunday morning and hearing the news. And God, if I could have parachuted in there, but there was just such anger and sadness of hearing about what happened to our brothers that I wanted to get back there. So through the Foreign Service after Africa, I put in my wish list, got Beirut. So I did 3 one-year tours in Beirut. After that, I transferred out to London for a little while, arrived there, and we had the poll tax riots while I was there. We were in a movie theater when it was all going on outside, had no idea, and walked out. The mobs were gone. There was just broken glass everywhere.
Wow.
After that, went to Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. Beautiful American compound at the American consulate. And I had, we were there 2 weeks. Our house was right next to the swimming pool. Oh, it was going to be so much fun. And then Saddam invaded Kuwait. And then I went to, it was a 2-person comm shop, 12 on, 12 off, 7 days a week. Eventually we got a 3rd person in, but still a 24-hour comm shop for the duration of the original Gulf War, Operation Desert Shield Storm. After that, I got out, was taking care of some family business, and then started my career in higher education, where I was an administrator for 23 years, director, associate dean for business technology and workforce development.
It's a little bit lower impact, right? Like you go
Yes,
from
yeah.
high intense situations, high stakes to, definitely some high stakes as far as educating the next generation and stuff, but, a little bit different environment and stuff like that. What had you go from what you were doing with contracts to at a federal level to actually getting into the education sector?
It was a move that I made. Well, actually in between all of this, this is, I'm a Renaissance man. So in between this, I had written a play
Wow.
called 2266. And it's about, it took place at the VFW post 2266. But that was the number when I started doing my research of, at that time, of the number of POW MIAs from Vietnam that were still unaccounted for. So this was a story about the family members of POW MIAs, the MIAs that, it's this particular story. There was two fighters, and they flew into a cloud bank and only one flew out. No radio call, no anything from the other one. No idea what happened to that person. Well, take that times a couple thousand, because we don't know what happens when they're missing in action. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. But this was also at a time when the people that were trying to find out the truth were not being treated very well from the government. So I wrote a play, and General William C. Westmoreland attended the opening night in New York for it. And,
Wow.
and so
That's
that
cool.
was that turn. I had another play, A Line in the Sand, about the chemical contamination of U.S. troops during the Gulf War, which there was a lot of coverage, but like when the war first ended, but after that, just went away. But the people that were affected were still affected. One quick note I want to say is, and this is just my dad. I was born at Edwards Air Force Base, and I grew up outside of Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. So he was a World War II, Korean, Vietnam Air Force vet. My oldest brother was a MASH chopper pilot in Vietnam. His wife, a MASH nurse. Next brother down was Air Force. Next brother, Army. And then, I just had to shake it up. So, I joined the Marines.
Come on. Wow. So it runs deep. So
it does. I mean, my grandfather was a tanker in France in World War I. And and I've got cousins and uncles, and it's something that we've just never hesitated, when our time came to serve.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. Yeah, over here, I was the first generation inside of my family to join the military, which choice is, Cran Eaton, Marine, Hoorah. And then my youngest brother now chose the Army. I was just like, hey, the Army teaches Marines that we can actually walk around the door. You know what I mean? Versus kick it down. So yeah, it's cool to kind of start that generational of service, selfless service and stuff of that matter. It just really instills a new element that, family dynamics normally don't experience, right? So it's incredible that you had that. For sure.
And I also recognize, because of working at Veterans Healing Farm, that there's a veterans community. So people don't have to be a veteran to support veterans. People don't have to have gone through or enlisted or commissioned to be that person that comes out and helps and volunteers and is also a voice for veterans. There's a lot of people out there. We know we have our veterans, we have our families, we have our caregivers, and we have our friends. And so it's a big family, all working together to help those vets and active duty folks.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we'll dive into the work that you're doing with Veterans Healing Farms here in a sec, but I also want to kind of leverage the 20 plus years of higher education experience you have, right? One thing that we were talking about, we connected on LinkedIn, Ambitious Vet, and me and Alan just hit it off immediately inside of our initial conversation around what happens whenever we remove politics completely out of situations. And Ambitious Fat, I just want to I want you to hear Alan's remarks on this, because I think we can get so caught up in the political propagandas, the noise and the groupthink of just people trying to steer our thinking. And Alan has a unique view on what happens when we remove the political noise altogether. Alan, what would you say around this?
Well, when I was in the United Arab Emirates, Al Ain is one of the cities and Abu Dhabi is the other. We had within the higher ed institutions that I was at, the higher colleges of technology, 55 different nationalities from all over the world that were working at the university. So this would, places that we tend to think that, we have a problem with, or people that we have a problem with, which is the biggest mistake right there, is to say people. We have problems with governments. And so I would have faculty from Pakistan and from India, and they got along great. Whereas their own countries, are always on the brink of something going on. And that was the same for every nationality. There was never an issue. I mean, there would be joking about stuff and being an American. And I've got to say that at that time in the UAE, one, there weren't a lot of Americans without Kevlar, and two, we were probably the smallest group in the UAE with maybe the South Africans, the Australians, a lot of Brits, Canadians. In fact, the Canadians, when they came to the UAE, they brought two great things: beer and ice hockey. So it was a wonderful experience. My son learned to play ice hockey in the desert. And while he did that, I was able to drink Molson. So, but it is the stakes at the political level. It's not about, they want to sell us that it's about freedom. They want to sell us that it's about, on one side, socialism, on one side, democracy, on one side, capitalism, on one, all of these different isms. You sit down with somebody, they love their family just like we do. They want to provide for them just like we do. They want them to be better than what we had. There's no difference in the people. For the most part, we'll hear of places that through tradition and culture, and through the caves of Pakistan, and they're up and they're stoning women, and that's true. But those aren't the people I'm talking about. And those people have been raised in a bubble to believe these things. And we have to be very careful, because it's a different bubble in the United States, but it's still a bubble unless you're aware of what's going on. And just to be clear to everybody, hashtag they all suck. I'm nonpartisan. I don't like either side, because neither side is working for the people. They're working for their parties. They're working for their own money. They're working for the corporations, but they're not working for us. We'll get the rhetoric, but when the rubber hits the road, it's going to be what the corporations want, because they're the ones pumping in the money. Yeah.
Taxes and stuff like that. Yeah. Makes total sense. So you're telling us, pretty much, just so I understand, it's really, there's a human aspect to the whole thing. People have individual stuff that they're dealing with, right? It's funny, quick joke over here is I think I was in Japan at an air wing unit 172, I believe. Camp Foster was fobbed over to Fatima. And I remember Japanese locals would come up and be like, "You Americans, you guys like convenience." I'm just like, I can't argue with that. You know what I mean? I'm just like, convenience. Yeah. And I think it does. Excuse me. I think convenience is making us dumb. You know what I mean? Because we flip on the TV, and whatever news anchor is telling us what there is to be afraid of or what's going on in the world, we just believe that, versus doing our own critical thinking. And I think to what you're saying, I would love to hear you unpack just a little bit more, is the human element, right? People individually are dealing with stuff, and not all of it is what the media anchor or the government is encompassing inside of a bubble, using the same metaphor you're using, that narrative they're pushing isn't what everyone else is potentially dealing with as an individual, right? So how do we leverage that human aspect, right? People are left after politics are gone, right? How can we leverage that to make a better world in the future?
I think we have to start with recognizing that they have another motivation other than serving the public. There's a whole different thing going on when you get into the higher level of politics, and so we as the people have to remember what it was like before. And I know there's a lot of people out there that are younger and don't. And I was thinking of this the other day, that when I was growing up and when I first started to vote, I can't remember if I was a registered Democrat or a registered Republican when I first started. And I think a lot of times we follow what our family has done because that's where we're coming up in that environment.
Yeah.
But I never pulled the lever for blue or red. Never. It was always, okay, who's up for office? Who's up for election? The issues that I care about, what are they saying on those issues? So, and either I agreed or I didn't agree. But so depending on the number of issues that went to, so I could vote for a Democrat, I could vote for a Republican, I could vote for a Libertarian. Mm-hmm. I voted Green Party. So it's not it was never a showstopper with the rest of the country. And I think most were like that. The two-party system doesn't work, and for this reason. And over the last several years, it's really become such a hardcore dividing line, as we all know in our nation. But that's, at the end of the day, it's our choice. Do we buy into it, or do we, to our neighbor, say, okay, you like this person, I like this person. Did you see the game last night? You like this person, I like this person. How's Clara doing with her band lessons? I mean, there's so much more going on. It was never at the top, red or blue. That was down the list of things when we were neighbors. And I'm not so sure of what's caused this shift. I don't think it wasn't Trump coming in, it wasn't Biden, it wasn't Obama. It was this slow shift over the last 20 years, 30 years, mm-hmm. that got us where we're at. So it wasn't a light switch event, and it's not over too. But I'll say to my brothers and sisters out there, brother and sister veterans out there, come on, don't buy into that. Reach back out and have the grace of it, and understand that if somebody's angry, let them be angry. You don't have to respond to it, and just keep walking your walk. And the hope is that things come back around.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that message, right? It's like receive someone's communication versus reacting to it, emphasizing with it, right? Just kind of like, hey, yeah, that's their views. Totally got it. Doesn't mean anything's wrong with that. And yeah, well, how is this person doing outside of their political views, right? I mean, to your point, there's been just random stuff happening that's kind of been morphing these political agendas, like feminists, racial issues, stuff like this. I mean, if you think about it, coming from our veteran background, right, talking to an ambitious vet that is a post 9/11 veteran, majority of the people that listen to this show, mm-hmm. we come from the most diverse, culture ever, right? So it's just like, for us, we got to step up. We've got to do things that can show that you can win in diversity. I mean, I remember when I was in Marine Corps boot camp and I was doing push-ups next to gangsters from Puerto Rico. You know
Oh,
what I mean?
sure. Oh,
And
absolutely.
I'm just like, and I love that. I loved bonding with them through trial and tribulation. And you would just hope that through this trial and tribulation of the nation where we're going through, it would bring people together, not separate us. I mean, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, that was a great example in boot camp because the thing that stood out to me in boot camp was this guy from West Virginia.
Hmm.
And this was, I don't know if they still allow smoking in boot camp or not, but this was at a time where you could smoke, you could buy chew. He would get skull and he would swallow it. And I'm like, holy crap.
Yeah. How do you do that? Yeah.
Yeah, but he grew up doing that. I mean, but yeah, there were, people from all over. But at the end of it, we were all Marines.
Hmm.
So it wasn't all the separations that can separate us. There was one thing that all brought us together. And at the end of that, when we stood there and graduated, we were Marines. And then then we all went into the suck.
It was such a good feeling, though, wasn't it? When we were getting our Eagle Globe and Anchor. Oh my gosh. Oh,
Well, it was it was raining, so we had to go indoors, and I was a guide. So I'm on stage and the lights are blaring into my eyes. Well, it's like the sand fleas. You don't move. You let them bite you, but you don't move. Well, I've got tears. They're not tears, it's water from the pain of the lights rolling down my face. Well, I'm up here like this going, I'm thinking, oh my God, they think I'm crying, but I'm really not crying. But by God, I'm not moving.
Oh my gosh. See, I was on the West Coast with the mountains. So I was over there at Hollywood Marines, just climbing mountains. So we didn't have the bugs, but we had those damn mountains. So I was crying. I was just crying going up those mountains. I did.
Yeah, I heard it. Yeah, I've heard that too.
So it sounds like safe to say, and I want to make sure that we're about to pivot into Veterans Healing Farms, right? But like the nation as a whole, would you say like we're just losing our identity as a culture to our parallel comparison of the military? Like us going in the military, we knew what our mission was. And it seems like the Constitution that we derived from, it's not even forefront anymore, in my opinion. That's my opinion. And I don't want to get too biased with it or ask you a leading question.
Mhm.
But I was thinking about this and I'm just like, I want to ask Alan what his thoughts are as far as America losing its identity. Are we doing it? Are we losing it? Or do we have it and we're just evolving into a new identity? What are your thoughts on that? And then let's move into Veterans Healing Farm.
I hope we're evolving into a new identity. That would be when you look at, we're fairly young in the world for a country, and so when you look at the evolution, cultural, political that has occurred in Europe and is still occurring, that we're in line with that too. That we will evolve. We'll be able to come together. That's a hope. I don't know. If I think about it too much, I probably wouldn't sleep.
Yeah.
And so much of it depends. It depends upon our leaders, and they're not doing the job. They're not bringing us together. They keep finding everything to name call each other, to drag each other through the mud.
I mean, we got pronouns now on LinkedIn. You got to put pronouns next to your name. It's like everyone's a label now.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
That's it. So that and to tell you the truth, be what you want to be, and I'll refer to you however you want me to refer to you. It's no skin off my nose, but
Yeah.
it's there's so much anger out there, and I don't see things getting better for the people. So what I mean is homelessness. They can't make money off of fixing it. It continues to grow. I'm here in Asheville, and every week I hear about a new homeless camp that's popped up in different parts of Asheville, and then they'll come in and they'll clear it. So you're just shifting them around. So how do we fix this? And we know that that's so much of that's mental health. So much of that is affordable housing, which doesn't exist. There's and just to pull back a second on the Unaffordable Health Care Act. I don't know if anyone's ever looked into that, but I was laid off. And so I could, a couple years ago, so I could either go Cobra, which is extremely expensive because you're paying full price for Blue Cross Blue Shield, or you go to the marketplace. So for me, just for me, with no dental, no eyesight, no hearing, it was $800 a month.
Wow.
And I had a $6,000 copay. And that was an 80-20 type split. Well, wait a minute. I'm using this because I'm unemployed. And at my income, I mean, it's insane. But when you hear the politicians talk, they think they're doing something for the people, or at least they say that. But again, I want to bring up something real quick for people to do research on, because it's so important. It's
research is important for sure.
To understanding where we're at today. It was Citizens United versus the FEC, the Federal Election Commission. This happened in 2010. Now, I was overseas at the time, and I heard that there was a case going to the Supreme Court, Citizens United versus the FEC. Well, Citizens United, my boy, that sounds good. I would be on that side because citizens need to be united. Yeah, let's
Sounded
do
good.
that.
Yeah.
No, it was a ultra right-wing group. Here are the results of it. And again, I want people to Google Citizens United versus the FEC and read about it yourself. What this did is removed over 100 years of campaign corruption laws. So what was allowed to happen after that, and then there was a subsequent federal case in Michigan that cited Citizens United. And here's the end result. It was a 5-4 split in the Supreme Court. So 4 against. Ruth Bader Ginsburg was on the against side. And what the for side came out and said that it was, they didn't think money could influence or corrupt politics, nor was it the government's role to prevent it. It's like, what? Since now, here's what's happened. After that, super PACs were created. So super PACs are the receive the funds, and while they're supposed to be separate and not work with campaigns, this is how they get by. If you have a super PAC for Biden, you have a super PAC for Trump, you have the money that has been poured into it, because also if you're a nonprofit and you're donating to a super PAC, you do not have to disclose who your donor was. That's dark money. We went from $10 million a year in dark money to this last 2020 election cycle, $500 million of dark money.
And that's us as a nation, United States, right?
Us as a nation, 500 million coming in for super PACs. FEC has allowed this. It's opened up a floodgate of money. Congress knows it. They're not doing anything to it. So we'll see what happens. The only way to address it now after the Supreme Court is through a constitutional amendment, which would take the Congress, which would take the House and the Senate to agree upon and put it forward. But when you're on the receiving side of all that cash coming in, and that's where the people come into play. So if you send your $50 into your senator, it means nothing.
Yeah.
They've got a lot more coming in. And
Right.
also, when was the last time you if you try to write a letter, communicate, email, you're going to get a form letter back. If you're inside the Beltway as a lobbyist, a paid lobbyist, you're walking into those offices anytime you want. And so we have lost control. The people no longer govern. And if we can get that back, we'll be okay. But peacefully get that back, we'll be okay. But right now, it's the system itself is broken.
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely, there's there's a lot there, right? And you always got to be touchy when you talk politics, but when you pull politics away completely, there's a human aspect, right? You can have all the rules, the regulations, the policies, everything in place to kind of have a structure or system work, but it's individual people's motives that move those policies forward. And I think that's where the element comes from of, people that, for myself, like me, I'm not really interested in politics. My wife is kind of that end of things. And, with that being said, I have to start caring more about it because of how it impacts, my daughter that's coming in. And I'm sharing this for an ambitious vet that's listening. It's like, who cares? It's just going to kind of work itself out or whatever. You've got to educate yourself at least so you can keep up with conversations with counterparts in your profession, your life, stuff like that. You can't just avoid stuff whenever things are, or be lack of accountable or just ignorant with everything going on, because, when you go to that voter queue, and hopefully you have motivation to go to that voter queue, who you're voting for and why, versus just doing what everyone's telling you to do. Because when you're in that group think, doing what, I've been in this in my 20s, right? Back when I first got out of the Marine Corps, I'd just go vote for people because there was 5 people that told me to go vote for that person. I was like, oh, that's the most popular person that I've heard about, so I'm going to go to that person, versus going and doing the research and understanding what their motives are, what they believe in, what their consistent messages are in their campaign, and even kind of testing their campaign messages per se too, and unpackaging that. So just be educated, ambitious vet, on what matters to you, but get out there. And you are an ambitious vet, so you're probably already doing this. Maybe I'm just the laziest guy in the room, but make sure that you're out there doing the work to unpackage people motives and putting people first before politics.
And Chris, just real quick, you had touched on it earlier on, but the mainstream media, they all have their own slant. And so don't take the word of one network, because I've seen one word change a story from what it should have been to what it became. So I know myself, I'll watch Fox, I'll watch NBC, I'll watch CNN, I'll watch Bloomberg. I'll watch different ones because finding the truth today is like panning for gold. You just scoop this, and you're like, with the networks going around and you're hoping something shiny shows up, which would be the truth. Most of the time it's just a big pan of mud, but we have to do that. Sometimes the reporting is right on, regardless of the network. Sometimes it's twisted. So we just have to be aware of that when we're seeking out truth.
Yeah. And people pushing their narratives, putting pudding on a shit pop sometimes, right? And you got to get good. You got to get good at getting down to the meat of it.
That's right. That's right.
So, Alan, I know we're getting on time, but I want to give you some time to talk about Veterans Healing Farms. I mean, this is amazing stuff. I know you reached out on LinkedIn. You're a new executive director of this. It's a non-for-profit, right?
Yes, it's a 501c3. It was started by John and Nicole Massey. He was an Air Force vet, started in 2013. So we're going into our 9th year as a nonprofit. Wow. And this is a 10-acre farm that we grow all different kinds of produce. We grow medicinal herbs, and we have our own beehives. There's a couple people that work for the farm. Everyone else are volunteers, and whether they're veterans or people coming in to help veterans. The camaraderie that exists on the farm, working those fields, collecting the honey, doing the things together, that once you get out, you may go to an office party, you may have drinks with the crew or something, but there's no camaraderie that exists like there was when we were in the service. So this farm, by the very nature of people coming out and being together and doing that, and farming is very therapeutic, completely, to be out there with nature. And it also brings the mind into the present. So you're not back there. You're not worried about there. you're at the farm. And I can tell you I was a volunteer before I became executive director, and there was never a day that I left that place that I didn't feel so much better than when I arrived. And it's that. So let me tell you what we did this past year.
Yeah.
This past summer, fall, we organically grew 4,000 pounds of produce and gave it away to veterans for free. We have a table set up outside the VA in Asheville. We would take it to the American Legion, and depending on what we had left, we may then go to, and how COVID would restrict us, we would go to different shelters after that. But
Right.
4,000 pounds of produce.
That's crazy.
We grew 500 flower bouquets to give away. 70 bottles of honey we gave away. We had free workshops for vets and their families on medicinal herbs. And so from our own garden, we had a doctor, Dr. Lulu Shimmick, her doctorate is in medicinal medicine. We took our own herbs, and she would have a workshop on anxiety and show the vets how to make the tinctures, how to make the balms, how to make the teas. Then another one on sleep, then another one on health, then another one on, and so the engagement has just been wonderful. And as we go into 2022, we're looking forward to doing more great things.
I mean,
vets.
during COVID times with the just regulations, 4,000 pounds of produce, 500 flower bouquets, 70 pounds of honey, and
70 bottles.
70 bottles. Sorry, I put
Yeah,
pounds.
like the
I
little
think
bear
I was,
bottles with the pointy
I think I
heads.
was still caught up with the produce stuff. I was like, holy cow, that's a lot of poundage of produce. But no, that's amazing stuff. And then the workshops, right? And one thing that you mentioned before when I was talking, and even when I'm hearing you explain this stuff, one, I love the passion and the peace that comes with,
Yes.
holistic approaches versus just, hey, going to the VA and, we've all gotten those, big bottles of painkillers and stuff like that and go fix
Yeah.
yourself, and not really doing any internal work, which I truly believe in doing the inner work and not relying on pills. I'm just kind of that kind of a guy because I've gone through that and I've gone through a lot of mental health issues and realized that that's what worked for me. But whatever works for you, Ambitious Vet. But also one thing that you said before, Alan, is also just feeling the satisfaction of watching things grow naturally. I mean, coming from a veteran's perspective, what is it like to just be able to get out there, grow the produce and go through that process of just, building the economy and their small efforts within the 10-acre farm? I mean, walk us through that process.
Well, I recently saw a show that talked about, or a news piece that talked about veterans just walking in the woods and being with nature, and how much of a positive impact just doing that had on the mind, body, and soul is all connected. We don't treat one without the others being affected. So it's always all together.
Yeah.
But I often think of the damage to the soul, which then can be manifested through the mind or vice versa on what's going on. But to be out there and you're planting stuff and it's growing and you're watching it and you're taking care of it and you're not alone. And this is the message that I want all the vets out there to remember is healing comes through community, not isolation. So while you're doing your, if you need it and you've got your antidepressants and anti-anxiety and you're talking to folks, if keep doing all of that, listen to the doctors. But what I want to say is get outside too, get out in nature, find a place, no matter whether it's a walk or what you can do, but, and know you're not alone. You're never alone. And just look for those veteran communities that exist within your area. And if you don't have one, then start one.
Yeah. Yeah. Get up there, be accountable, raise your hand first. I mean, isn't that what we're taught about in the military? Be the first one to raise your hand, get up and take action. So great. So, yeah. So where can an ambitious vet go learn more about the Veterans Healing Farms? Where can they go learn more about how to participate, donate, all that good stuff?
There's two spots right now. One is on the web, and it's veteranshealingfarm.org. And the other is if you go to Facebook and put in Veterans Healing Farm, and you'll see it. And, Facebook is always easier to change, at the minute. So you'll see up-to-date things. The website will have some donation information. And we're also back to selling some T-shirts and hoodies for the holidays.
Nice.
And that will be listed on our Facebook site. So yes, please support us. If you're in the area of Asheville or Western North Carolina, come out to the farm and have a visit. And we hope you volunteer, but just know that you're always welcome, there.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. And Ambitious Vet, I definitely just going to put some more pudding pop on that and go and, check out the website, go figure out how you can participate in any way, shape, or form. Even if you have potentially someone that would be interested in becoming a partner, maybe providing education, supplying volunteers or veterans that would love to just go on a retreat out there. I know I have connections inside of my Rolodex where I'm just like, man, this could be good for people that are providing holistic horse therapy. I forget what the term is. The $10 word. I'm from Midwest. I can't say the $10 words all the time, but I'm just thinking of people that could come out there and contribute in some way, shape, or form. So Ambitious Vet, if it's not that, go to the website or Facebook group and get a t-shirt, get a hoodie. I'm sure dollar by dollar, it goes a long way there at the Veterans Healing Farms. Alan, I want to give you one last parting words of wisdom to the Ambitious Vet. There's an Ambitious Vet that's out there in the trenches of life right now that has kind of gotten the immediate transitional education down, which is resume writing, interview prep, and job fairs, right? They've kind of figured that out, but they're kind of just lost in the sauce of how do I become a better person, or just, better spouse, or just, how do I find more happiness or fulfillment in life? What would be one last golden grenade that you could provide to that Ambitious Vet? And then we'll say goodbye.
I think really you need to, and this is a hard thing. This is a hard thing to do. It took me a long time to do. And that is, to my brothers and sisters, you need to love yourself. You start with that. Love yourself. And from there, all things will grow. And so with that, to love yourself, forgive yourself. And I don't mean that, I'm not talking to people that were in major combat type situations and they've got these nightmares. I mean, we as humans are so hard on ourselves, or at least I think the people that care about other people are so hard on ourselves. Whereas we'll be forgiving to someone else, but when it comes to us, we're iron on us.
Right.
And let it go. Let it go. See how awesome you are, and the wonderful people that are in your life, and the wonderful people that love you, and accept it, and start from there. And lastly, Chris, I just want to toss out there for everybody, especially at the holidays. If you see somebody that's down, you ask them if they're going to hurt themselves. You ask them what they're thinking, because I tell you what, that's a hard conversation to have, but it's not as hard as going to the fucking funeral. So ask them, hug them, love them, don't stop. And really, that's the essence of it. If they say yes, let's go. Come on, get in the car. We're going, and find help for them. And you don't have to do that on your own. The VA, there's a hotline. There's a lot of hotlines out there. But ask. If someone's down, ask them and help them.
There's no other more direct way that you can say that, Alan. So, thanks for joining the show. We really appreciate it. All the work that you're doing at the Veterans Healing Farms and everything that you've done previously to that and continue to do. Thanks for joining the show.
Chris, thank you very much for having me. And Mary, when is this going to air before? No, this probably won't air before Christmas, right?
I think it actually will. So we'll probably have it out probably by the end of this week. So Ambitious Vet, it's December 22nd. So we'll probably have it out maybe before Christmas. Hey, if it is, Merry Christmas, Ambitious Vet. If not, happy New Year. You know what I mean?
That's right. And or Merry Christmas for next year, depending on when it is.
Whenever
every day. It's Christmas.
Yay. All right.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
The Ambitious Vet is available on all popular podcast platforms. Go to vettrainingcoaching.com to subscribe, rate, and share with fellow vets.
Ambitious Vet again. Today's show is brought to you by Rollers, a veteran-owned, fun, new outdoor yard game that combines elements of traditional games like bow shoe ball, bowling, and horseshoes. It's a snap to set up, easy to learn and play, but not to win. It's a game of skill with an element of choice. It's invented by a good friend and Minnesota native, Matt Butler. Interesting thing is this damn yard game was invented through visualization between deployments overseas in Iraq and Afghanistan, supporting combat operations. Proof of concept came from backyard barbecues in the Midwest, home on leave, and now he has sold well over 60,000 units in multiple retail chains throughout the United States. He's living the American dream post-military, like I think we all wish to as ambitious vets. But ambitious vet, I say all that to say this: go check out your rollers, your next roller game potentially at rollers.com. Get free shipping by entering in discount code AV Network. Again, that's Alpha Victor Network. Get your free shipping. Grab your rollers game today at rollers.com.